my camera is not even on. Oh my gosh, what's going on, everybody? Let's see here. Why is my camera not on? Did I turn it off? Here, hold on. Let me try to reset my camera. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. How's it going, everybody? The ominous voice coming in from the back. What's going on? Hey, what's up, Eds? Hey, what's up, JM? Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Let me try to fix this. Hold on. Boop. Try turning it off and on again. This would be really weird if we had no camera today. I'm all staring at the camera like, what's happening? Let's see. Let's just close this down. Let me try to input it. 1 second. Troubleshooting with me. Let's see. Let's go back here. Let's try this one more time. Getting something. There we go. Hey, there we go. What is going on, everybody? Hey, so my name's Ian, and I work at Maxon. I'm a ZBrush trainer. We got the camera working, so life is good. What's going on, Chris? What's going on, studio? Hello, everybody. So if you don't know, I'm a ZBrush trainer here at Maxon, and I teach ZBrush for a living, and it's a lot of fun, and I love it. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. I usually have a big project. Last week I was working on a Velociraptor, but I'm actually working on that project in cahoots with a couple other colleagues. So we're actually like building that project fun and in a nice slow process. So you guys will eventually see where that project goes. But until then, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of sketching today because I'm still in some Halloween vibes. I don't know about the rest of you, but I love Halloween, and life is good with Halloween. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do some sketching, something really fun and simple, but also a really good exercise for anyone who's trying to get into just modeling or just clay sculpting or just trying to just art, you know what I mean? So, but before we do that, real quick, we are doing the ZBrush Summit November 13th through the 16th, which is a Sunday through Wednesday. Sunday, the 13th, is our annual Sculpt Off. It's one of the biggest Sculpt Off competitions around, and basically 5 winners, over $25,000 worth in prizes. It's free to open. All you have to do is go to ZBrushSummit.com, go to the Sculpt Off, and read the rules, sign up. You can sign up until November 8th. I think it's the last day. No, November 9th is the last day you can sign up. But it's going to be a lot of fun because you get to basically download one of these background projects, and then you sculpt a sculpture that will fit within that scene. But again, you know, it's going to be based off of a couple of things. It's going to be based off of the rules of the the theme. So you download one of these scenes and then you have a theme. This theme spells ZBrush, which we thought was kind of cool, but you have Zen, Bravery, Rebirth, Unity, Strength, and Honor. So really fun. You can see the inspiration that we were going for, and we thought it'd be really, really cool. You don't have to sculpt within the project. You just have to download the project and then put your model in there and then hit render, and then you're good to go. So go ahead, go through all this. You will see Nightbot, thank you Nightbot, popping in a bunch of stuff. So definitely check it out. It's really fun. I highly recommend it, even if you're new to sculpting, because you're kind of sculpting on a time crunch. And what's neat about that is it really opens your mind of how your workflow currently is, and it helps you kind of navigate. When you have 3 hours to make something, 3 hours might seem like a long time until you start. So definitely check it out. It's a lot of fun, but we also have a lot of events happening too. So we have an events page that will basically go through all that stuff. So just go ahead, take a look, and it would be a lot of fun. And so let's get into some sketching. Let's do it. Rules. Psh, exactly, McBobbles, exactly. Who needs the rules? Who needs it? Nico, how you doing? Welcome in. All right, so sketching. So I was thinking we're just going to go ahead and sketch. I want to sculpt a skull with a candle on top. Thought it might make for a really good 3D print prop for next year's Halloween. Already planning that. Let's get some music going and let's start sketching. Now here's something that's really, really cool is you'll notice here in my cam view, I have a little planer head. What I like to do is I like to go to preferences, and then I like to go to cam view, and I like to say next until I see the skull that defaults with ZBrush, and even blow that up a little bit. This is really good reference if you're trying to basically model a skull for the first time. This will give you a good starting spot. Titan's Revenge is here. What is happening, dude? What is happening? Welcome in, buddy. Welcome in. If you guys don't know who Titan is, he's an awesome streamer, a really cool dude, and he loves props. Talk to that guy. You'll like it. All right, so we're gonna be sketching today. Let's do it. Let's see, I need to actually do, let's go to my interface. Let's go to click, use sticky keys. I turned this off because I was weird and I don't like it. I like the sticky keys. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So let's get going. What's up, Polo? Hey, how you doing? Everybody come in. Okay, so let's sketch. This is how I sketch in ZBrush. The first thing I do is, actually, let's start from scratch, just because there might be somebody here who's like, I don't even know how to start in ZBrush, and I like to go over that. So you might have something a lot like this when you start up ZBrush, and this is our nice little homepage that will basically tell you, hey, this is how you do, this is what's new within ZBrush. But what I like to do is just teach people to go to this default project, ZPR, right here, in this lightbox, double-click this, say no, and you're already symmetrical and Dynamesh, and you're ready to start modeling. B for your brush. Let's hit C for clay buildup, and B, because I love working with the clay buildup brush. I like changing the alpha, though, to alpha 18. Just something I like to do. And let's go ahead and squish this down just a little teeny bit. And down like this just a bit. Perfect. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn perspective off just because I don't really need it for this right at the moment. I'm just blocking out. I'm going to take the clip curves brush and I'm going to press the spacebar first and then Control Shift, which will switch my intensity on this menu. You can, if you have the default, to come up to intensity here, but I like to do that just so that we have something like that. And I had, let's go right here. All right. There we go. Come on, straight down. Perfect. Give us a nice little spot. Matt! What's up, dude? What is up, Matt? What's happening? Me! Yes, perfect. And now let's go ahead and let's get some of this going here. So an easy way to actually get a skull shape really quickly is to mask out just 1/4 of your sphere and then invert that. And then what I like to do is kind of just pivot this out. Now there are a lot of ways to do this, but I like to do this sometimes, not always. Don't ask why. I'm a weird dude and I don't always keep consistent with how I do stuff, but when I do it the way I know how to do it. So we're gonna go ahead and kind of get this narrowed out and squish this in, and this gives me a really quick head shape, very simple. I'm gonna come underneath a little bit and I'm actually gonna pull forward where his chin would be. Now, I'm not sculpting the actual jaw itself. I'm only going to be sculpting, I'm only sculpting the top part. I'm not sculpting his jaw or the lower part of his mandibles. So we're just going to go ahead and get it something similar, and then we're going to carve right in there. We're just going to start pulling this in. Delete, delete, delete. Delete it all. And then with clip curve, you can actually shove that back a little bit. And now we got something. Now with his ears, I did pull the jaw out for a reason, because his ear would be somewhere around here. And that's important for anatomy purposes, because if the ear is right about here, give or take, then that's where the top of it right here, that's about where the eyes would be. So we have a good landmark to start pushing in where those eyes would be. That gives us a good stop. And what's awesome too is that eyes are they're square-ish. They're not round. Don't think of it as like being a rounded shape. They're more squared off. Reading 2 screens. Yep, I'm reading 2. Hold on. Yeah, I read it better than anything I've sculpted. You're reading 2 screens? Yeah. Oh wait, hold on. Yeah. Yep. Oh. All right. Well, Titan, you two can do this, buddy. You two can do this. There we go. Now I'm going to push in right here. Boop. Just like that. Just to get that basic shape. Just like such. Now, obviously, this part right back here is really long for no reason at all. So let's push that back in. I am using the Move Infinite for this part, which means that that brush can actually see everything in depth, and even though we're symmetrical, we can push this back in. Boop, boop, boop. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's push in this part right here to get those brows. There we go. Now we have a really nice squished head, which looks terrible. So let's actually come here to my sculpts. We'll call this, what do we want to call this? What do we want to call this? Let's call this skull and candle sketch. There we go. And let's rename this skull candle sketch. Not even gonna do a 01. I asked because I had commented and must have missed you seeing it, I guess. Oh, wait. Oh, I did not see it. Oh my gosh, you are so correct, sir. Sabian, my main sculptor's instructor's teacher, and my fellow sculptors. Almost done with my version of that hand. Nice. Also, I think I might just enter the sculpt off. Do it. You have to do. You have to. You have to. Have to. No pressure. That's, yeah, sorry. I totally missed it. Guys, I try so hard to hit all the comments, and I have no excuse this time. My bad. Yeah, I'm putting this video on my resume. Heck yeah. Hi, John. What's happening? What is happening? Took me a week to do a tank tut, but this one should at least take me until New Year's. Perfect. Yeah, man. Absolutely. All right. Well, if you guys have any questions about the Sculpt Off 2, please let me know, like, what your questions are, and we can go over it together. This year, I'm really, really digging the theme, so I'm hopefully you guys are as well. But, you know, if there's questions, concerns, or thoughts about what it is that's actually happening, feel free to let us know, because then we can help you out. All right, we're pumping in this area right here. This is where the teeth are going to be, and obviously we have the roof of the mouth right about there. Perfect. So let's kick that down. Let's rebuild that surface. Notice too, I'm keeping this super loose and low res. It is definitely imperative to do so. You don't need to keep it super high. Yeah. Hey, what is happening? Welcome in, welcome in. Just doing some fun sketching today. Now, something I like to do as well, just to keep my planes going well, is I will take my damn standard brush and I will come through and just get a sense of where those plane changes are and clean up some of that area. Just love how this brush just builds up. Okay, we're also going to take the damn standard, and I'm going to... That's not the damn standard. That's the clay buildup, Ian. Go BDS for damn standard. Boop. There we go. And I'm actually going to start carving in right here. And the reason why is because we have this kind of... This nice little cheekbone here that needs to be shaped. So that's going to help kind of push that a bit. There we go. And now we're going to move that into the nostril area. Boom. I'm at work, so I may have to mute this, but I'm watching. Sweet John, appreciate it, always. But if you have any questions, feel free to type them in. I have a question. Since the theme is a sculpture, does this mean no color? Just something that looks like stone or bronze, just wondering. That's a great question. Honestly, it is up to you. So the rules do specify that you can, of course, put color on your sculpture. Whatever you think looks good for the scenes. The things to, if we go back here real fast, take a look at the scenes and the colors that are provided. This might give you a good understanding that, like, while there's not a whole lot of color, there is definitely color within the material. So, you know, you don't, if it doesn't, I don't know, you may not want to put so much color where it distracts from it matching the environment, but there is definitely color there, so color is accepted. But of course, it is up to you. You can always, you know, you can always plop it in and see what that is, how that's looking for you. I definitely say, you know, I would keep it very close to this for a long time. Like, let's blow this up just so you can see. I would actually keep this kind of stone look for a very long time, because, you know, you don't want to spend so much time playing with color if you realize that the color is taking away from the actual feel of the model. So I would say the biggest two tips I could give you is definitely make sure that it is reading one of these, and then two, that the model itself, the pose is, I would go with dynamic. Keeping it dynamic would be really, really fun, because then you can really, A, the expression, and B, you know, take a look at like monuments, take a look at collectibles. Those are like the two things, monuments and collectibles. I would highly recommend researching and referencing those as much as possible. Can you recommend a course or video to learn ZModeler for hard surface? Absolutely. Actually, I just did a how it's made. So if we come to YouTube, oh look, I'm live. If we go to YouTube and we go to ZBrush, how it's made, we can do a few things. We can do a tank, which is one that I did. So I would definitely recommend checking out this stream right here, because this will walk you through hard surface with ZModeler primarily. So that's going to be one. I'm going to share that link right now. There's also another one by Paul Gabry. He does a espresso. He does an espresso machine, which is also an amazing. He goes a little bit more in depth than I did with ZModeler. So I would say watch the tank video first, and then watch this one second, and just kind of watch it through, scrub through it, and then follow along, and that will take you through pretty much everything you need to know about ZModeler. And then everything else is just a benefit. So I would say try that. Let's see. Oh, it's Sunday this year too. Yes, it is Sunday. No excuse, McBobbles. So what details and advice besides what I see on the site would you suggest? Also, I heard you say 3-hour time crunch. Yes, it's a 3-hour window. Our sculpt off is always about 3 hours. This year, since you don't have to worry so much about rendering, because the scene comes with render presets, which is the point. So for you, we're basically giving you extra sculpting time. My advice is to definitely download the projects and load them in your machine and kind of see the projects and how they're built. You can't modify them in any way, shape, or form. You're only placing your statue within the scene. So definitely just get a sense of how those projects are built and pick your favorite one. Yeah. Really, honestly, no, you don't have to use KeyShot. No Redshift, no KeyShot. It's all ZBrush rendering. It's all BPR, Shift R. That's find an area you like, hit Shift R. And this will tell you too how long it's going to take your machine to render that. So, you know, you don't want to sculpt for 2 hours and 59 minutes thinking that it's going to take less than a minute to render and upload. You want to be able to understand how long it's going to take your machine to render. So, another advice possibly is to take one of a model you think would be close to caliber, stick it in that project, scale it down, and then hit render and see how long it takes. Yep, let's see. Do you suggest anything for beginner's digital sculpting? Actually, what I'm doing right now is what I would definitely recommend for beginner sculpting, but also too, we have Z Classroom, and we have some updated videos coming on Maxon's university site, which will actually, or Cineversity, I keep calling it university. Cineversity, that's going to be very, very helpful, but just watching how I'm basically starting this and building it, and then the 2 videos I shared are definitely beginner friendly for hard surface. But if you have any specific questions about something you're struggling with, let me know, and I can also help you there too. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and duplicate this tool, because the first tool is the name of the actual name of the project. And what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to just size this down and then hide it. And now I'm going to rename this one Skull. Okay. And then now I'm going to go ahead and resave this. Perfect. And now let's go to geometry and let's do Dynamesh. And now I'm going to adjust the resolution. Right now it's at 64, but I'm going to go up 128. I like to double it each time and then just kind of rebuild that surface. This is going to give me a little bit more resolution to play with, but I still want to keep it pretty low. Now, I'm not going to be going into the details too much. I'm just trying right now to get the basic shape of what I want. And you never want to move into details too quickly. It's like the biggest thing I can definitely, if you take away anything from today, just don't stress too much about trying to get things looking amazing out the gate. Just get it looking close enough, and then you can refine later. So let's go to our auto masking. I'm going to go to backface, and I'm actually going to pull this out and rebuild that just because I got a little too thin. And let's go back to brush and turn off backface mask. I'm also using the default UI, so if anybody's like, oh, I don't know where things are, I teach it like this on purpose. No, you're totally welcome. Hey, and have a good Halloween. I did, Leonard. Thank you so much for asking. I had an amazing Halloween. Took the kids out, trick-or-treating a little bit. My Deadpool mask was really, really fun. If you guys didn't see that, it was really cool. But towards the end of the night, the Deadpool mask I had on, the mesh in front of the eyes, so like you couldn't see my eyes, but I could see through it. The lights, the street lights, and every car driving was blinding. Oh my gosh, it was so crazy. So at some point I had to give it up and just take it off. And then I was pretty much the dude from Big Lebowski the rest of the night. Just pretty funny. But hopefully you had a good Halloween as well, everyone. It's always fun. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and kind of push this in just a little bit here. This is where we kind of have to now map out the teeth area. So it's a lot thinner than you think. And then we actually got to push this in a bit too. This is too wide, so we actually need to start pushing this in. And what I'm going to do is actually use the move infinite for this to get this pushed in. There we go. Yeah, that's better. That's a lot better. So let's kind of clip that down a little bit and rebuild that. Perfect. Okay. And then we're going to push this in just a bit. So this bone actually, there's a connection point, so we want to make sure we get that correct. But again, I'm not going too much in details. We're just kind of sketching it out right now. And what I will do with the damn standard is I'm just going to come through. There we go. And I'm just going to kind of like map out where I'm going to want those teeth. These are nice little baby teeth for now. This is just giving me the sense. Okay. Let's go ahead and again, let's save it and let's get our candle in place and then maybe a surface in which this will live on, and then we can start moving things a little bit forward. How would I go about making, well, so we are sketching a skull and candle for next Halloween already, or just for every day. Free scenes, woohoo! Yep, absolutely. What are we making today? Yeah, that's what we're making. Okay. How would you go about making a sword, Z modeler, or shadow box, something else? Honestly, so I've made a fair bit of swords. I've made a katana and a broadsword and a two-handed sword before, and an axe. It really depends on the complexity of the shape, but if I wanted to make a sword, I would tend to lean towards Z modeler for sure. So what I would do is I'd actually take a basic shape, doesn't matter, whatever this, I would just take a shape, and then I would immediately come down to initialize. I'm hitting all the wrong buttons today. Initialize, and I would drop the resolution, not the resolution, yeah, the resolution. Drop the resolution on X, Y, and Z to 1, and then hit QQ. And again, solo this out. And then the way I would do this is just basically first shape it with a gizmo. So let's just go with a basic, like broadsword. I get the blade first. Now, most blades are going to taper, but if you're going for 3D printing, you don't want a sharp edge because that's going to be near impossible to print. So you're going to want some thickness and some dulling to it. However, doesn't mean you can't get a sharp edge, but I would first shape it this way. Just get something that's usable to start with, and then I would go to geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld on the x-axis. And then from here, I would also take the Z modeler brush, so B, Z, and M, hover over my edge, insert multiple edge loops, but keep polygroups. And I would put one straight down the middle, just like this. And then from here, I would actually mask off this area, come up, and then start to move this to a point. Something like such. And then I would probably, let's get this kind of squeezed in a little bit more. And then I would come to the top here. Now this little bit here, I tend to do this sometimes. It's a lot of fun. I'm actually going to bring this very close to the tip. And now by default, our X symmetry, if we hit X and turn it off, is on the X axis. But if we go up to transform, I'm actually going to go ahead and use the Z axis. So now that my symmetry would be turned on. Yep, activate symmetry on the X axis. So now I would actually have this here. And I would actually start to pivot this up a little bit. Maybe mask off the exact middle. Kind of rotate that up just a little bit just to give it some thickness. Just so you have, like, again, you have taper to blades typically. And then what I would do is I would mask off just the middle portion. Kind of get that nice little peak there. And then for the tip, I'd probably end up squeezing that down. Here, let's go right there. That to a tip. Something like such. This is probably how I would start it. And then same with on these sides here. If we come down here, boop, boop, actually, let's highlight these. This is, of course, me just kind of fiddling a bit, but let's go back to our transpose. Let's go activate on the X now. Invert that. Then maybe start to bring this down just a little bit. Something like this. This is probably how I would start the process, and then I would go from there. That's my typical approach. Again, this is a very simple, straightforward blade. That's probably how I would start it. So hopefully that helps point you into a good direction. My Aussie? No. Nope. Let's see. So when we enter, do we do what we do? I mean, do I sculpt my statue on that day? This would be my first sculpt off. I can enter and things done correctly. Yes. So what you would do is you can't do anything to your model until the clock starts. So what's going to happen that day is myself, Paul, and our good old buddy Louis Tucci are going to be there. And we're going to do the intro, hang out, talk to you. We start about 30 minutes beforehand. And then we'll initiate. So a lot of times people will have the stream going on in the background or on another computer. And we'll initiate the clock to start. Once we say go, you have 3 hours from that point. So 12:30 to 3:30 Los Angeles time. And then we'll end up telling you to put pins down. By the time we tell you to put pins down, you need to... we're going to tell you where to upload things, make sure that you enter correctly. But once pins are down, like your upload, everything should be done by the end of the 3 hours. This is why, like I said, with the projects kind of get, like, test them out, see what there are. But you can't, anything with your model that you're doing has to be done within that 3 hours, and you have to live stream it as well. So when you enter, it's going to ask you to, oh, interesting. It's going to ask you to tell us where you're streaming, so that way we can just verify if you're the winner. We can go through and verify, make sure all the rules were honored, and then after that, we call the winner. So Sculpt Off happens on Sunday, and the final announcement usually happens on the last day, which would be Wednesday, because it gives time for the judges to come in and take a peek at what happened. Definitely go through the rules. It's very important. Can't stress that enough. Definitely encourage everyone here who's going to be entering to go through the rules. It's just going to service you really, really well. Trust me. Okay, let's get a candle going. We're gonna be really simple with this. I'm thinking a nice fatty short candle. You make like easy, man. I try, man. I try. That's very useful. Thank you. Absolutely. Do we have to stream ourselves? Yes, you do. Absolutely. Just during the Sculpt Off. You don't have to have your camera on if you want, but you have to link to your site. But we encourage the camera on, especially if you're somebody who you know, wants to kind of get a sense of what streaming is like, but it's just so that we can authenticate the actual model, make sure everything was done correctly. Okay, so I can already tell you right now, by placing the candle here, I can tell you that his dome is really just like incorrect. It's too high. So I'm gonna take that clip curve, and I'm gonna start to make the curve come in this way, because the shadow side is the side that's gonna clip. Tap Alt and get a nice rounding bit, and push that down. There we go. Easy. Perfect. Let's take that move infinite and start pushing that in. It's usually a little bit fatter towards the bottom and a little bit more rounded towards the top. Come through here. Now, of course, you know, this has to be 3D printed, so I'm not going to be placing things that are going to be overly complicating it without tearing it apart, you know, so. Okay, let's go ahead and push in his orbitals just a bit. Or hers. Theirs. Haven't decided yet. That's a dope answer, yeah. I know myself, I'm awful under pressure, but I definitely want to watch. Yeah, no problem. Well, you know, it's interesting. I will say, I encourage everyone to compete for two reasons. One, it's really good exposure, especially if you're trying to, like, you know, get your name out there a little bit. So it's a way to basically put eyes on your work. But two, what's cool is you never know who you're going to meet there, which is fun. You know, like, you're going to be able to connect with people in the chat and talk with everyone, and it's a lot of fun. I've made a lot of really cool friends through streaming and through the chat the years I was just kind of watching. So I don't know, it's always neat, and just it's really just a fun collaborative process. So I encourage, but also too, like I was saying earlier, what's neat about it is that you are also going to be getting a sense of what it's like to work under pressure, which I think benefits so much. It really makes you look at your workflow. The first year I competed was 2020, and I was like, my workflow I thought could be improved. Somebody convinced me to join, and I was like, all right, I'm doing it. And after that, while I didn't win, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many things I can do to improve. So it really helped me as an artist just kind of push myself a bit more. So I definitely encourage it for sure. So if you're like kind of on the fence, I don't know, I'm gonna encourage kindly. That's what I do. All right, so let's come here. Let's save this real quick, and let's start with a candle. So that placement alone, this is why it's so important when you're like blocking stuff out to get all your assets there. Because if I would have kept building this skull, knowing where the proportions should be and how the candle should be interacting with this, it pretty much told me everything I needed to know. It told me this thing was like no good. So I needed to basically correct this. Okay, now let's go to geometry. This is a little trick I do with hard surface stuff. This default cylinder is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but I don't like all these edge loops. That's kind of my thing, and I try to keep things super low. So I'm going to come through and hit delete loops. So edge loop, delete loops. That gets rid of all of the loops that are not supporting the shape of the model and only keeps the supporting loops. This helps me keep things really nice and clean. So now I'm going to go ahead and mask off this area. I want a nice kind of short, stubby candle, but I'm going to keep it symmetrical for the main build. I'm going to hover over the top. We're going to go insert single edge loop, and I'm going to go ahead and just add in what should be relatively the thickness. And then let's come through holding Alt and isolate this area. Press and hold spacebar and do a Q mesh with polygroup all. And I'm just going to push this down. Give me something like that. Now, of course, if I hit D for dynamic subdivision, it's going to do this, which is not what we want. But the reason why, it's just previewing that subdivision, what subdivision level 3 would look like. So now I can come through and actually add in some supporting loops to maintain the shape that I want. So I'm just bringing these edge loops close enough to the edge to give the shape some structure. There we go. Now if I hit D again, notice how that holds that shape a lot better. I'm going to do the same over here. Now, more than likely, I'm going to be tearing this away from its current polygroup and going to Dynamesh to sculpt for fun. Because again, we're just sketching here, but this gives me a very decent shape to build. And I like how that's looking. So now I'm going to scale this down. Now, I'm also going to select this bottom side here. And I'm going to equally scale it up and kind of squish it. Just like that. Now, here's something that I'm going to do as well, which we're going to use some dynamic subdivision first. So I'm going to bring this up, say something like that. Now, with dynamic subdivision, what's going to happen is if I don't have a whole lot of edge loops, it's only going to support the shape that I need it to be. So this is where I'm going to come through and add in some edge loops where I think they're needed. And from here, I think I need some shapes here. So I'm going to add some edge loops there. And then I'm going to add one right about here. And kind of scale this down a little bit so I get a little bit of a uneven surface. Now with this, I'm going to come here to dynamics and I'm going to pump this on. Now what I will do is, let's say I want to test something. So I'm going to go to morph target, store morph target, because if I need to come back to this at any point in time, I can. And now what I'm going to do is mask off this area. This is the important part. I'm going to mask this area off. Actually, let's bring this closer. We don't need it to travel so far. Let's bring it here. I'm going to delete the morph target and restart it. Now this is pretty close. I'm going to mask this area off. And I just want this area to be affected. So now I'm going to come up to my dynamics, hit masked on, self collision. Let's do about 2. And let's do inflate at 0. Gravity strength. Okay, yeah, let's set it at about 1. And let's recalculate. And that's going to calculate what's going on within the viewport and everything visible. So when I hit run, it kind of just drops down and didn't really do everything right, except for it did add a little bit of a shape, which is fun. And that's good. That's what we wanted. A little bit of a deformation there. Now that I did all of that and just got a base deformation, I can actually go back and switch morph target if I needed to, which right now, I actually like this shape. So we're going to bring up the transpose cloth brush. That's B, T, and then C. And then when I bring this down, it's now going to kind of interact with the rest of this. Although, I want this to mask off this area. Now, let's hit unmask there. Let's recalculate that. Scale that up a little bit. There we go. Something very simple. Now let's bring this in and kind of squish this the rest of the way. So this is actually going to maintain that shape around the skull really well. There we go. And this gives me a little bit of warbliness, which is fine. And like I said, I can always switch back. If I don't like it, that morph target allows me to switch back. So the theme of this sculpt off is actually monuments. That's the theme of it, and you have to use one of the keywords, which is one of 6 keywords like Zen, Unity, Honor, Rebirth. They're all there on that. If we could pull that back up. So Zen, Bravery, Rebirth, Unity, Strength, Honor. As long as your sculpture represents one of these 6 words, you are good to go. So the theme is monuments with one of these. How much of a pro do you need to be to enter? You don't have to be a professional to enter. In fact, we encourage amateurs as well. Sure, there might be a pro or 2 who enter, but for the most part, you'd actually be surprised how many pros don't enter. So I've actually, there's over 200 sculptors last year. It was crazy. But I saw a lot of people that I knew that weren't professional people sculpting. But, yeah, some pros jump on. But just come in and do your best. Don't let that discourage you whatsoever. I personally will not be entering for obvious reasons. I work here. That would not be fair. How am I adding edge loops? So great question. I'm actually adding the edge loops using the Z modeler. So if BZM, that's the hotkey shortcut. So I'm just hovering over the edge, hitting the spacebar, insert. If I have single edge loop, that'll actually allow me to click and place that edge loop exactly where I want. If I turn around and actually do multiple edge loops, I can actually click one time and start dragging out multiple evenly spaced edge loops. And that's how you can add a bunch. So I can come through and add a couple there, hit tap. to repeat that action. So I can come in and actually add in some more edge loops here. And I can add in a couple more here. And then I can add in a bunch here, just like that. That's how I'm adding in those edge loops. That way I have full control over these edge loops, exactly where I want them to be. Let's see. Hey, no, I will not be. Yeah, I will be co-hosting though. I'll be there happily watching, peeking in everybody, see what's happening. Okay. Question: when I try to merge down to the when I try to merge down to extract, it merges the subtools without extracting anything. EJ Tech. Let me see. Hold on. You try to merge down. Do you mean geometry? Sorry, subtool merge down. Is that what you're referring to? I'm not sure I understand the question exactly. You try to merge down to extract it. Merges the subtools without extracting anything. It's a dope hat he has there. I know, right? Yes. Well, the merge down will not extract anything by itself in nature. It's just merging the subtools from one to another. So if I come down here, sorry, I'm still trying to maybe understand your question. Have a good day, John. Thank you so much. If I come to merge down, what is going to happen is it's going to merge these two. Let me actually do this. I'm going to duplicate the same subtool. I'm going to put this over here. Let's turn solo off, and let's actually turn this off. So what's going to happen if I merge this down with this one? All it's going to do is combine those two subtools, and now they live within the exact same aspect. And then if I go ahead and actually split this off by going split hidden, it remains on itself. There's no extracting actually happening there. However, let's say this model, I'm going to save this real quick just because I know I'm going to break it. I'm going to do that on purpose though. Let's say this model has subdivisions, and this model does not have subdivisions. If I try to merge this one down with this model that does not have subdivisions, watch what happens. So I'm going to come down here to subtool. I'm going to go to merge down. I'm going to say okay. Now I'm going to come down here and notice that my subdivisions went away. That's because the subdivisions themselves didn't necessarily match. So it deleted the subdivisions because it said, hey, this bottom one doesn't have it, so we must not need that. On the flip side, though, if I were to come down, let's go split hidden, and let's say this model that we have here does have subdivisions. So you can see here it has 3 subdivisions, and this one had no subdivisions. So let's actually build that right back. So this has 3. So now we have models with 3 and 3. If I come back down, and actually let's leave this viewport open just so you get a good sense. So if I merge this down now, watch what happens to the subdivisions. They stay exactly the same. So if your model is trying to merge down from one that has subdivisions to no subdivisions, you're going to lose subdivisions, or it's going to delete everything but the one it had. So let's say this had 2, this had 3. It's probably going to delete the one it didn't need and claim it as 2. In this case, it was able to keep it. But you're not actually extracting anything. So hopefully that clarifies a little bit. But if I totally missed the point of your question, I apologize. I'm not quite I may not have been following. And I just deleted all my candles. So let's reload. Let's reload this. Let's come here. Let's hit reload. Yay, I reloaded that. Let's come here. Let's delete that. Good job, Ian. You know what's up. Come through here. Delete all. Yeah, delete all. And come back to this one. Now, if you're trying to, I don't know, are you trying to merge? Yeah, that might be a little bit different. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Wham. That's a great point. Are you trying to do a live Boolean? That's a great question. Let's see, I'm using a 3700 Ryzen 7. Actually thinking I should be able to stream and sculpt with no problems. What streaming service would you guys suggest, though? I would suggest YouTube. I would suggest YouTube because it automatically keeps your VODs, which is what you want to do anyway. And YouTube has a pretty big lag latency that you can adjust to your machine. I would say YouTube would probably be your best bet. That's what I would recommend, unless you've already had your settings dialed into Twitch and you set things to keep your streams previously. YouTube is probably your best option. That's my personal recommendation, not a I told you to do that. Let's see here. You want to learn Yeza? Can you guide me, please? That's actually what I'm here for. I'm able to guide you through ZBrush while I'm live. So if you have questions, let me know, and I can definitely help push you through it. When I'm going through, I feel like I missed a few things. So I want to make sure I'm getting it all. You need some help in Blender? I would like to pay somebody a good commission. Yeah, if somebody here knows Blender, help them out. Can you hire Crissetti to be your sculptor? I don't know, Comics. You're gonna have to ask Crissetti. He might be a little bit busy, but you never know. I would ask him. Have a good day. Do you mean extract? How? Okay. Okay, let me cover that real quick too. So maybe that's what you are referring to. Just to go one step further, and then I'll take. Yeah, you're talking about live booleans. Okay, you are talking about live booleans. Yay! Okay, great, cool. Also, Wham, thank you so much for helping sort that question. Really appreciate it. Woo! Look at that, guys. Look at that. Yes. That's not at all what we meant to do. Get that transpose cloth out of here. All right, live boolean time. So let's say we want to put a hole in our skull here. I'm gonna hide this candle temporarily. So let's say we want to put a hole in this skull. So what you would want to do first is put your object that you want to cut, put it in a folder. The reason why I'm recommending the folder method and not the original old school hierarchy method is because for me, it keeps things cleanly. But if you know the hierarchy system, then don't worry about it, because I also use the hierarchy system within the folder, and I get some tricky cuts done that way. But for the most part, I'm just going to be pushing this to the folder side because I feel like it just keeps things tidy. So I put my skull in a folder and I call it skull cut, who I can't spell to save my life. Perfect. Hit that caps lock. We're going to go with it. And then I'm going to take my cutting tool and I'm going to place that in the folder underneath. Now I have my skull cut and I have my skull here and I have this cutting object. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at these three icons within the subtool that I want to cut with. So I have my first one, which is just a merge, and then my second one, which is a cut, and my third one, which is a intersect. So I'm going to pick the second one for just straight cutting, and then I'm going to turn on live boolean, and you might see something like this. If you didn't have the wireframe turned on, it would look like it disappeared. But now I can hit W for the gizmo, and I can place my cut, right? Just like that. And as you see here, I can modify that shape, and it's going to do that. And because it's live boolean, it's adjusting. So let's say I did actually want to create like a nice hole in his head, right? This was the route I was going because, you know, skull bowls are really fun, and I want to put some treats in there for Halloween, right? So I'd have something like this. Okay, perfect. Now, what I would do is, with the live boolean turned on, I would close the folder, and then I would come through, click the little cog wheel on the folder, and then go to not merge, but boolean folder. You can boolean with dynamic subdivision turned on if you would like, but I'm just going to do a normal boolean and let that come through, and that populates a new subtool outside of the folder that is now cut. And that's why I do it that way, because if for some reason it doesn't do the cut that I want, or you know, I just need the subtool to be independent and away from the rest so I don't get confused, that's why I do it that way. And at any point, if I delete this and go back in, you can see here I have those same tools ready to go again. It doesn't get rid of those folder, so then I can actually make the adjustment as necessary. Right? So then I could come back in, turn live boolean back on, and now I can make a different cut. Or let's say I wanted to make two different cuts here. So I can actually duplicate this. I'm actually going to go ahead and rotate this just for complexity, throw it in here, and now set this one to cut as well. And now I can update this in real time and then say, okay, that's where that cut's gonna live. And now I can come through, same thing, close this, do Boolean folder. It generates a new subtool, but also too, now I can actually isolate and have my top and my bottom. But again, it generates a new subtool, which I can work independent from my original mesh. So it's completely non-destructive in that method. So that's why I go that route. And at any point in time, when I'm done, ready to go, that also allows you to make more complex cuts if you would like. Because then you can actually set up like different cuts, Booleans, and then you can basically say like, oh, okay, I want to make this cut, but this cut gets a joint. So I'm going to cut this first, and then I'm going to go back into the folder, switch my layout, and now I'm going to make an intersect, and then I'm going to export that. So then I have caps, essentially. So you can get really creative with the folder system, which, in my opinion, is why we introduced it. So hopefully that is helpful, but yeah, that's how you would do that. If you just hit merge, it's just going to do that. It's just going to merge all your subtools together, even if they're set to cut. It's just going to merge things together. So make sure that you Boolean the folder, because that's the operation you're trying to get. You are so welcome. Oh, yeah. Maxon training channel, same stream. Yep. Yeah, we hit 2 places. I turned on both channels. I just want to be everywhere. Wait, I'm confused. The name of this channel is Pixelogic. What does that mean? That Maxon pulled on? No. This is just the YouTube name that is on. This was the original name of the channel. We just didn't change, but it's still the same thing. Maxon owns ZBrush. You're welcome. With ZModeler, can I place an edge loop at a specific distance from an edge of a face without inserting a ton of equal distant loops? At this time, I don't think so, Streamworks. No. I'm going to say no on that one. Good afternoon, by the way. Okay, great. Perfect. Okay, let's continue on forward. We're going to do some fun stuff. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to, this is my candle. Great questions, by the way, guys. Great questions. I'm going to take my candle, and what I'm going to do, because I'm just sketching and I'm not really invested heavily in keeping things super low or like ultimately I just wanted the shape. I'm going to go ahead dynamic and I'm going to apply this, and then I'm just going to go ahead and delete lower. And then I'm going to bring out the snake hook brush, which is B, S, and then H. This is one of my favorite brushes of all times. I'm going to smooth out these edges here. And now we're going to switch this over to Dynamesh. And the reason why we're going to do that is because we're going to be doing some fun little magic here. So I'm going to go to Dynamesh. I'm going to use this picker. I'm going to click the picker one time, drag it over, and see what the densest resolution is on my mesh, which looks to be about 328. Turn blur off and then hit Dynamesh. This keeps it fairly low. Now, what's really cool, turn off RGB, we don't need that, is that with the snake hook, if I start moving this out and I press Alt, it's actually going to pull to the shape of the normals of the thing it's sitting on. So I'm going to go ahead and by pressing Alt, start flaring out some of these candle bits just a little bit, just to get that kind of shape. So again, I'm just pressing and holding Alt, and this is helping keeping it snapped to the skull. Rebuild it if it looks like it's breaking a bit. Now I'm gonna kind of warp the shape of this candle. There we go. Smooth it down just a little bit, just because it's worn out. It's a worn candle. They're not perfect. Actually, that's why I love sculpting candles, because you can't sculpt a bad candle. Seriously, I don't believe you can. It's like you can just make a thing and put a stem on it and then call it a candle and you're good to go. But now what's going to be fun is right now I'm going to start adding some of these drippy wax bits. Okay. Now I'm just holding Alt and I'm just pulling this here. Rebuild that mesh if it starts giving me too many problems. Smaller one. Rebuild that. You could also use Sculptress if you would like. It's completely up to you. There we go. We started getting some basic fun shapes, which is neat. Now I'm going to take this, mask this area off. Kind of blur this a little bit and maybe squeeze this down just a bit. There we go. Also going to make sure, just turn off collision volume and close that. We don't need that. Skull bowls are fun. That's right, dude. And is there a function similar to the adjust last slider that gives you more control over certain strokes, etc., that are more adjustable and isn't bound to your last stroke? Patrick, such a great question. Okay, so how do I want to approach that? Kind of, sort of. So let's see here. So with the adjust, so what you could do, so with the adjust last, we're just going to use our clay buildup here. So I use the adjust last with kind of a purposeful intent. And what I mean by that is I decide when I need to use it. However, that's also kind of where the layer system comes into play a little bit, because the layer system will kind of do what you're referring to in a sense. You just create that new layer and then you start sculpting stuff, right? And then, of course, you turn that off. But, of course, that's tied to the layer. So every stroke you've ever made is tied to that layer, typically. So we can go ahead and delete that. So what I tend to do is use a history marker on this. I'll stamp a history marker. And then from here, I'll go ahead and start making, like, my strokes, right? Come through. Making my fun little strokes. Whee! Cutting some of this in. Flowing this out a little bit. Perfect. Now, at this point, I can go ahead and start adjusting last. And I can use that history. So it's not just adjusting the last thing that I did, which is what typically would happen. I would make a stroke, and then it would adjust the very last stroke that I did. And it won't go back too much further than that. It'll take the last stroke and then adjust that last stroke. So, but like if you're asking, like, can I specifically call back to this point in time that was right here and then adjust that's going to remove your history. But what you probably could do is use history recall. So if you wanted to, we do have a history recall brush right here. This is really fun. I don't use it very often, but with the history recall, you can set that point in time in history. So let's say right here, let's come back to this part here. I'm gonna come on. I'm gonna recall this history, come back. And then you could use that. If I'm even using it right. Yeah, I am. So then I can recall to that. But what's going to happen is, you see how it's kind of wiping away everything else, because it's recalling back to that, what the mesh looked like at that state. So it may not be quite what you're looking for, which I don't think it is, but essentially that's how I would go about using that. I'm trying to think if there's another way to do it, and I'm just not, I'm not thinking that there is. You might be able to get fancy. Okay, you might be able to try this. So let's say you like this shape here. So I'm going to come through. Boom. I got this. And I love the state of this mesh just like that. I'm going to stamp that, right? I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this object. I'm going to go through and start sculpting. Yay, I'm sculpting. Boop, 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 boop. and I need to recall back to what it looked like beforehand. Again, this is going to change the entirety of the mesh, but you see this little red box up here? I could project history from that point. I might be going on a random tangent, doesn't really matter, but if I project history to that point, it's going to try to map the point of that history to this other object. Or if I just use that history recall brush. Boop, boop, boop. It's still going to call to that point in the brush. See what I mean? It's still going to look at the mesh of that and recall to that point in time, because you can do that with multiple stuff. But yeah, but for specifically a single point and just use that, I don't know if that helps you at all, but that might give you something. It's perfect. Great. Awesome. Glad I can help. I was like, huh. That was a great question, because I was like, yeah, morph target too. Absolutely. That's another one. Yeah, layers, morph target, that helps as well. I just did a morph target with the candle itself, but yeah. Are you allowed to model the base for the sculpt off, like a male, female, like the male and female ZBrush defaults? What I would recommend is if you wanted to add your own base to your model, okay, use the base provided in the scenes, but if you wanted to make another base for your model, make another base for your model that is a part of your model that makes sense. But since you can't change the environment in this, the idea is to make your model and then place it on the scene. So do you guys remember the Cthulhu that we did a little while ago? So I'm going to this is kind of what I'm referring to here. So let's go ZBrush. Breakdown. Let's try this. Aim right up. Perfect. Okay. Do you guys remember? Let's see. Do we show a good breakdown of it? He went really in depth with it. Okay. Do you guys remember this? So if you wanted to make your model and the base make sense to the model, then just place this on the base in the scene. So still use the base within the scene that's provided, but I would say if you're making a base that specifically is helping you tell your story of your sculpt, should be fine. Just place it on the base in the scene. Don't replace the base that's in the scene, because you can't alter the scene whatsoever. But if you made something like this, and then you placed it, yeah, I would say that's fine. Just don't remove the base. If it ships with ZBrush, you can start with it. Remember, the main rules are you can't add any geometry, you can't use any scripts that you pre-built that add geometry. You can't use any other existing IMM brushes unless it ships with ZBrush. Those are the only IMM brushes allowed. So, can you start with a base mesh? Yeah, you can start with a base mesh. It ships with ZBrush. Just open up and boom, just start with a base mesh. Absolutely. Yeah. So hopefully that answered 2 questions. Okay, great. Let's keep going. Hello, you have questions? What's the difference between Dynamesh and ZRemesher? I only have a hard time understanding ZRemesher. Okay, yeah, no problem actually. So the long of the short of it is that Dynamesh is primarily used for like having, some sort of like, it's like a sketching tool. That's how I like to refer to it. It's basically a sketching tool. It helps you get your ideas out on paper quickly and helps you to rebuild. But in no way would I consider Dynamesh to be good topology as far as like having proper pipeline and workflow. Hopefully you guys don't hear that crazy ambulance going through. So Dynamesh is good to get a good sketch ID out, where ZRemesher is going to help you rebuild the geometry so that you can apply subdivisions that are functional. So that would be the major difference between the two. I'm going to go ahead and actually split hidden here, and then this is the actual wick. The John wick. Hoorah. So in this case, like right here, let's say I was super happy with this candle, and I don't want to do... I'm going to come back in time just a little bit. I'm super happy with this candle, but I now want to start... I basically want to start adding good detail to this candle. This is where ZRemesher comes in. At this point, Dynamesh, yes, you can get good detail if you're very patient and you have really high resolution and you want to be able to sculpt that in. I've seen artists do it all the time. However, it doesn't hold detail quite as well as a ZRemeshed subdivided model will, because a subdivided model has the potential to actually hold the shape better and allow more vertices to be affected and hold a lot more detail with fewer vertices, where Dynamesh is very kind of, you get what you get. You can get something pretty high, but it might be a little much. So think of Dynamesh as, I'm just sketching, I'm trying to get something good and working, and now I'm ready to, quote, ZRemesh this so I can start adding details, right? This is what you would end up doing. Then you would come here to geometry, and then you would go to your ZRemesher, and then start ZRemeshing. So let's say you wanted to ZRemesh at 5. This would be the workflow that you would want to kind of get on it. So that's the major difference between the two. Dynamesh, sketch it, it looks good. ZRemesh, rebuild it, have some good quads, subdivide, add detail, bada bing, bada boom. So hopefully that helps solidify that a little bit more for you. I'm going to come here and actually hover over this edge and give myself a new polygroup. And then cue this out just a little bit. I want to make this kind of a round. I'm going to flare this out. Pick this up. And then bring this up again. Through, mask this off, scale this back down just a little bit. Now I'm going to come here. This is actually a cool little trick. Come here through insert, and then I'm going to do interactive. Actually, you know what? Let's actually do this. I think I made it way more complicated than it actually needed to be. Let's actually center this back home. It's not truly... Actually, we don't need to center that back home. Let's just hit local sim. So it wasn't truly symmetrical. Play this out. Oh, we're getting crazy and getting crazy. Okay. Okay, fine. Never mind then. Let's actually take a different approach. Let's just flare it out easily. Let's just put an edge loop in there. Flare that out. Put one there. Put one there. I was making it too complicated for anybody who's like, what did he do? I was way too complicated. So just creating edge loops, masking that in. Sometimes I do that. Just kind of want a nice little burnt tip here. Little round edge. Come through here, add in this edge loop. That's way too much. Edge loop, let's go single. Drag that up there. Up a little bit. Model's way too small. Come here. Come on. There we go. Add that edge loop there. Perfect. Okay. Let's come through here, just slightly focused. There we go. Okay. Now we can skinny this down just a little bit. Extend that up. Maybe push that in just a bit. Give me a decent wick in there. This all makes sense now. Perfect. You're welcome. You're originally from Jersey. I am not actually originally from Jersey. I am not. Born and raised in Los Angeles, California. The software I use to generate supports for my prints, I was using Lychee for a long, more recently. Was using Lychee recently. I used to go with Chitu Box for resin prints. For my FDM, I use Prusa Slicer. I'll only model my own supports if I absolutely think it's the best course of action, which is pretty rare actually, because slicers are getting really good. Like they're getting kind of stupid good at it now. I mean, it's their job. They should be. Okay, let's start bringing in some detail here, and by detail I mean refinement. Start getting the skull looking a little bit better. It looks kind of shoddy right now, but it'll be okay. So we're just kind of refining our shapes a bit and getting that cleaned up. Exactly. If you're not overcomplicating things, you're not even doing it right. Exactly. True words. True words. See, Patrick. Best way to export relatively low-res model with accompanying normal displacement maps to bring back the fine detail in separate programs. I've had issues with them not mapping correctly in other programs. That's a great question, Patrick. A super great question. So, all right, with displacement maps, especially within ZBrush, I feel like we might be going a little stylized with this skull here. So here's the way I do it, and I think this I've had a lot of success with this, so hopefully this helps you out. I'm going to go ahead and real quick, let me just duplicate this off. Let me save this. Let's duplicate this off, and then let me just show you how I do it, so hopefully it helps you a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ZRemesh this to get something just kind of decent. So I'm going to go to my geometry. Let's ZRemesh. I'm going to also just add a point in history just to call back. And then I'm going to, let's see, this is 97,000. So let's just do 10,000 just to capture it. That's close to 10% of what's happening with ZRemesh. I have this rule of thumb. It's just something I do that seems to work out the best, where I look at the active points and I call about 10 to 20% of what I think it would hold. And then I try to go lower if I can support. So I'm going to go ahead and go pretty low with this. Okay, great. That's actually pretty good. Okay, so from here, we'll go ahead and let's do a basic UV unwrap. So I'm going to go to UV master. It is symmetrical, that's fun. So I'm going to go ahead and just do an unwrap. Okay, so now I have UVs, and we could check that by coming down to geometry. Sorry, going down to UV map, turning our bump down to 0, hitting morph target, and these are okay UVs. Just for demonstration purposes, I would never have the seam running straight down the face, but that's okay. So now we have our UV maps here. What you're going to want to do, so if you want to do displacement maps at this point, what I would recommend you do is you come here to morph target and you store your morph target, okay? And then I'm going to subdivide up. Now I'm going to go ahead and actually project back those details. So I'm going to go to geometry. I'm going to go to subtool, project, and project history. Now I got my history on there. Yay, it's looking really good. Perfect. Can I clean that up a little bit? Yeah, perfect. So now I have this and I have my subdivided. Now the thing is that my morph target is stored to this state mesh. Right? So if I were to change this mesh at this point in time, so if I were to come here, I can switch. I need to switch back to my unsculpted mesh. This is why we have a morph target switch here. So right now, even though since I projected all that history, I technically sculpted on that. So what I need to do is drop it to a low and then switch to my original morph target before the sculptural details were even added. Because as soon as you start sculpting, you are actually changing the mesh and the integrity of that displacement. So you want it to be low and you want to switch back. And then from there, you want to go to displacement map. Use my mouse for this. And then you want to go ahead and create. You can create an export and go ahead and create that displacement map. And now there's my displacement map. It's going to recognize everything about your model, but you have to be on the unsculpted low-res version of your model. So that's why you take your morph target, set it, apply your sculptural details, then switch back to your unsculpted low-res mesh, and then export that out. When you hit export and create, it's obviously going to create it, and then it's going to export as well. So I just went ahead and created that. Of course, you have all these different channels. Now, the thing to remember is that ZBrush is Y-axis up, and other programs might be Z-axis up. So what you'll need to do is then, if I were to export this out and it's still mapping incorrectly, you need to go to your, you actually need to end up flipping this. So I'm just going to go ahead and export this out real quick. So you can actually end up flipping this on the Y-axis. So just if you load it into your, yes, perfect. No, we don't need to do that. So you would actually want to go ahead and flip that. Now, I believe I can bring this in my texture, select it, and then hit flip Y, and then re-export that out and call this my flipped map. And then go ahead and just save that out. And then from there, just same with your normal maps and stuff like that. So if you wanted your normal map, you come to your normal map and you can create your normal map, and then you can go ahead and export that out as well. You can also, what I like to do is Z plugin, and I go to my MME, so multi-map exporter, come through export options, displacement map, I set things there, my vector, my normal, I come through, I export out using that, the MME or multi-map exporter. And you can select, oh, I want my normal map, I want my ambient occlusion, I want my texture map, I want my displacement. Perfect. And then just go ahead and say, create all maps and export it all out. Try that. Hopefully that helps you out. See here. When I extract a mesh, when I extract a mesh from masking for making headband, I end up with flat mesh, and when I try to dynamesh it, it comes with holes, and I can't fix that. I think that's because it's flat. I'm not sure. Hey, great question, actually. So what you can do with that, I'm gonna go ahead and delete this guy right here. So with the extract method, what I like to do, so let's say I want a headband on this guy. There's my headband. I don't know why I'm trying to get fancy. I always try to get fancy. Just anyway, so I have my headband. What I like to do is then go to my extract, and I set the thickness down to 0. This is super important because then when I hit extract and then accept, I'm going to get this. And it's a single-sided geometry, right? Let's turn on the wireframe. Single-sided geometry, but what's really cool about this is it comes with a mask here, right? So then what I would recommend is you end up cleaning this up. So the easiest way to do that is go to deformation, polish features, and just polish features a few times. You can even turn that little bubble off and really hit that hard. The mask will protect the integrity of the mesh itself, and you just really flatten that out so that looks good. And then from there, go to geometry, and then go ahead and Z-remesh this. And do that a few times until you get something that's really nice. So let's call that nice for now. And then you can also go same and try to remap that a little bit more till you get something that you would like. You can also try to Try to use like Z modeler guides, like ZBrush guide, and just say like, I want the loops to go this way. Perfect. There you go. A lot better. That's what I'm looking for. That's a lot cleaner. And now from here, I can use my Z modeler brush, hover over Q mesh, and drag that out. And now I have a nice, clean, low-res headband that I can work with. So it's all about just keeping the model clean. What probably happened from the sounds of it is that, yeah, when you export it, you had thickness, and then Dynamesh, there might have been a hole or two in there. Then the mesh integrity just kind of failed. What you could try to do to save what you have so far, unless you want to rebuild it, is go to Geometry, Mesh Integrity, check Mesh Integrity, and then fix it. And then if you have any holes, that works well with Dynamesh stuff. And then that should help kind of clean that up a bit. Yeah, guys, you don't need a complex, crazy Wacom tablet. I'm actually using SenseLab, but I've used everything from Huion to XP Pen to SenseLab to Wacom, and I've used the mouse. I use a mouse when I Z model because I find it to be a lot easier. But as far as sculpting goes, this is kind of a two-part question because I see the question there too about like what do I prefer, what do I think about preferring a mouse. The problem with a mouse is that the it's not ergonomically friendly, so you're going to get tired really quickly. I mean, I would say if you have a really crazy ergonomic mouse, that is very comfortable to use, but the other issue is that in ZBrush, a mouse click is on or off, where ZBrush uses pen pressure sensitivity. And the thing is, and I'll dispel this right now, if you see like a crazy tablet that's like 16,000 points of pen pressure, that's ridiculous. You're not even gonna know. 8,000 is more than enough, which is what most tablets are at now. So yeah, like tablet with like 8,000, that's perfect. You could get something really affordable. SenseLab is really affordable. XP Pen is also really affordable. So I would check out those two companies. They're probably my favorite when it comes to super affordable. I do have a Wacom Cintiq, and I like it. I have a 6'4" wingspan, and it's something that I really enjoy because I like to be immersed. But also, too, it's not necessary. The tablet doesn't make the artist makes the artist. Hashtag Ian. Dude, 2022. It's over 9,000. Yeah, exactly. Like, come on. That's crazy. Are you gonna notice over 9,000? Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And like your streams, yeah. So yeah. So hopefully that answers your question. Oh, trust me, there's no such thing. I'm 90% mouse, and I only use my tablet for very specific tasks. Hey, that's totally fine. Yeah, you do you, boo. When I go Z from Cinema to Cinema 4D, my models, it points towards Z positive instead of Z negative, so it's reversed. Is there a way to fix this? Yeah, that is something that we noticed in the first iteration of Z Modeler, and we have noted that as well. That's just because of the way Cinema 4D looks at things. It does look at things a little bit differently. So it is on our repertoire to take a look at. Yeah. For me, like, I guess that's just because that's how Cinema 4D sees things. I've just been tending personally to just stick with what it sees. Again, but I'm also not an expert in Cinema 4D, so yeah. But we noticed that as well. Yeah, the content. Yeah, I am 6'4". Yep. Yeah. Yeah. No, Grossetti is an amazing dude. It was such an honor to meet him. So, seriously, super amazing guy. What do I want to do? Clay build up here. Actually, let's try the clay brush. I'm curious if I'm going to get some more kind of organic shapes here. Oh, I was fixing the skull, wasn't I? I was doing that. Oh well. I noticed things with a candle. Yeah. Yep, I'm a tall dude. I grew up hearing the question, so you gonna play basketball? Is that a thing for you, bro? No, no. I suck at basketball. Although I did enjoy playing it when I was a kid. I had a few friends who were really into it, but yeah, I got that a lot too. Yeah. Oh, thanks, EJ. That's awesome. I try, man. I love teaching this stuff, and so I'm glad it's working out. Coming, it's well received. So thank you for the kind words. Appreciate that, man. I use very limited amount of brush, so I can't do clean models. So which useful brush for clean model? So the easiest answer to your question is if you want a super clean model. See, like here, I'm getting all these random holes and stuff. So I'm going to come through here and I'm going to do my mesh integrity bit that I was talking about. So geometry, mesh integrity. See, look at that. This mesh contains one edge that are shared by 2 or more polygons. Great, wonderful. Fix that. Now come through. Perfect. Especially when I'm tearing into this model. So if you want a super clean model, the easiest thing to do is remember the basic rule of thumb for a clean model is only have the model as high topology as needed. Basically, keep it as low as possible. So like, if you look at all these really crazy stylized characters, a lot of them, the mesh is probably super low because that helps keep things nice and smooth. Secondly, when you use Dynamesh, only use it to get your main shapes and then ZBrush immediately so that you can refine it the rest of the way. Like here, I'm just sketching, so I don't really, not really in the mindset of caring what the mesh looks like at the moment. But in order, when I'm ready to keep this, to get this low, I'm gonna end up, I'll end up ZBrushing it. So. Okay, let's come through here. Let's start cleaning this up a bit. I'm gonna want this to kind of come up and in. Get those refined shapes. I'm actually gonna cause a little plane change right here. It's important. You guys notice I talk a lot, so hopefully we'll get this model looking fairly decent here in a minute. Okay, we're actually gonna go ahead and cause like a little bit of recess here just to get the basic shapes in. There we go. All right, let's take the actually, let's take the /3. I'm actually going to go up a little bit with the resolution. Let's rebuild that. And again, now I'm going to go ahead and actually start slicing in where these teeth should be. In there a little bit. I'm trying to count my teeth. Sure, let's go with that many. let's go with that many. I don't even know. That works. Let's go with clay buildup. Actually, let's do damn standard and let's kind of cut this in. Let's start pulling all this in. There we go. He's a pretty sculptor. He's a pretty good sculptor. Yeah. I heard the same thing. A friend of a friend told me about that. Do you use polygroups often? All the time. I use it all the time. One of my go-tos with poly groups is that's how I get some pretty decent. Actually, that's how I control Scratch. Not pretty decent. That's actually how I control my UVs in ZBrush. Is I use polygroups to map out where my seams are going to be, and then from there I just go through and start adjusting. In fact, I'll show you too another way that I like to use it. It's actually coming up right now. So I'm going to use that /3. Obviously we're making some teeth here. All right. Now I want to refine these teeth a little bit, so this is what I would do. So I'm going to go ahead and actually going to come through and mask out each one of these teeth. So let's actually, let's do ourselves a favor. Ooh, I really like this song. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control W. Actually mask these out and get different poly groups coming through these areas right here. Boop. Boop, 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 boop. Yeah, there we go. I'm gonna let's actually grab that right there. Yeah, that works. Okay, let's do that. Let's come through. Just taking a little bit of time, but it'll be worth it, I promise. There we go. Perfect. Almost there. Coming through one more time. So what I'm going to do now, pass that off. There we go. So what I'm going to do now is actually I'm going to, because I have all these poly groups, I'm going to come through. I'm actually going to turn on groups. I'm going to re-swipe that. And now I have my mouth here. Okay. Now I have these teeth here. Now, of course, these are kind of a mess, so I'm actually going to go ahead and let's split hidden here. Let's go here, split hidden. We got time. Perfect. Now I'm going to come through and actually hide this half here and just straight up delete hidden. So I'm going to go to geometry, modify topology, delete hidden. And now we can actually come through and start cleaning some of these up. Rebuild that mesh. And then, of course, too, if there's anything I don't want, or I just want one tooth, that's one way that I go about doing it as well. These teeth kind of broke, though. So we might actually end up just rebuilding, which might be the smarter move. So let's go ahead, let's do this. Go ahead and just insert a cube, which is totally fine. But that's one way you can go about doing it. The other way you can go about with, like I was saying, we have, let's just do this real quick. If I wanted to Z remesh this, and I can control my loops, I'd actually use poly groups. So I'd come through here. Let's say I want the seam right there, hit that poly group. This is what's really fun about this. Yeah, there we go, something like that. So now I can have a nice controlled line. So when I come through here, this is a little bit easier explanation. Come through, keep groups, turn that down, Z remesh this, drop this fairly low, right? And now the fun part is, let's say now I want to create my UVs. Now if I come here to Z plugin, UV master, and then I'll say keep symmetry on, keep polygroups on. When I unwrap this, right? Now if we take a look at that UV, there's my UVs. They're completely separated. And I can control that seam that way. And then I can switch that back. So now I have the seam of my UVs going that way on his head. So those are the two ways I use that. The first one is obviously a really long, long way of explaining it, but nonetheless. Yeah, exactly. Usually what I do is I usually, like, when I sketch the teeth like the way I had it, I'm usually going for now just the ability to get a look of something. Now here, I'm actually going to go ahead and refine this. So I'm just going to make a tooth. So I'm going to go to initialize, again, Q cube. I do this all the time. Q cube is one of my favorite ways to get nice clean geo. Let's actually just go ahead and I'm going to make a base tooth here. Just invert that, reset, go ahead and scale that down. And then let's actually do this. Let's come up here to geometry, modify topology, mirror and weld. Give me that line down the middle, turn symmetry on. Let's get Z modeler going. Let's actually create just a couple edge loops here. Okay. Skinny that up a little bit. Maybe bend that just a little bit. Now we could turn off, this is one tooth. We could turn these teeth off. Yeah, there we go. Start placing them in there. Turn off symmetry. Let's put that back. There we go. Start getting something that's a little bit more usable. This guy doesn't floss, so we'll keep the teeth close together. This, rotate that in. Little canines can be out just a little bit more. We start getting into some molar territory. Oh, these guys are back again. Okay, I think that, okay. This actually, I think I know what channel that's on. Perfect. That's what I wanted to know. Okay. Okay, that's good to know. I think I know exactly where this is coming from. Perfect. Good to know. All right. No, actually, Paul has me, I think, by like, I think an inch. But I think we are the two tallest people. Obviously need to correct the other stuff, but this is a decent start. We'll obviously have to clean these teeth up just a smidget. Actually, no, leave that one there. There, let's do that. All right, let's come here. Let's do... Any way to snap a subtool to another subtool as far as the location in space? Yes, I do see chat. So those are actually coming from YouTube itself, and we actually have been figuring out exactly how to get rid of that stuff. And I believe that one is actually coming on the Maxon side, which is good to know. So I'm going to be actually reaching out and solving that as well. Okay, let's do poly groups and let's do auto groups. And then I'm just going to go mirror and weld. Perfect. What time? Okay, we are running a little bit out of time. Still have some time, but let's go poly groups, and then geometry, mirror and weld. Mirror and weld that. Perfect. So now we get to clean this up a little bit. It's looking messy. Yeah, Jumper said Viking. Let's see here. Any way to snap another subtool? Okay, so we do have an align feature for the snapping. So if I wanted to snap one subtool to another, what you could do, like, let's say, oop. So what I could do is, let's say I want to actually, let's insert a cube. I'm gonna put this over here just so we could see. Even scale it down. Whee! So if I want to snap this cube to the bottom of the teeth, this is actually where these subfolders come in. I'm just going to go ahead and pick folder 3 and turn on the teeth, and I'm going to turn on the cube. So we do have an align feature where I can come through here and have the cube selected and align the teeth to the cube, which is Control-Z-able. Or if I want to align the cube to the teeth, I'll have the teeth selected and then align the cube to the teeth itself. Now notice this subtool here, because this was visible, that was also aligning. So yeah, so you can snap this to the middle, you can snap it to the top, you can snap it to the bottom, or even to the sides. So you can snap, this is the way you would want to do that. Again, you just show the subtool you want to snap to, have that one selected, and then the other snap. And then the other subtool will snap to that. That's the easiest way to do that. The other thing you could do, especially like because that's Control-Z-able, it's like, let's say you like that align feature, but now you want to work on that off onto the side. So I want to work on this cube off to the side. I now can actually come into Stager, which is under Geometry Stager. Say this is my home stage. Select my cube. Move this all the way over here. And then say my target stage, home stage, there we go. Set this over here, target stage, and now I can work on this cube, blah, 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 blah. Let's do it like this. And then I can switch stages, and that'll send that right back to where that was. So that's what you can end up doing. And you can work on that there, or you can switch it back, work that over here, scale this down. What's really cool is, let's say you need to work on this symmetrically, and you're using Stager. This is what local symmetry does. If you're working on this subtool off over here, I can work on this symmetrically. So let's actually take our move. Work on this symmetrically off here in space. Right? And then I can send that back. And then I can work on that symmetrically over here. Switch that back. Work on this symmetrically. Again, because I have local sim turned on. If we have local sim turned on and the one subtool is off over here, it will recognize symmetry. And then you just send that back. Turn off local sim, and you're good to go. You are super welcome. Align may be your favorite feature in ZBrush? Nice. Yeah, I really, really, really like Align as well, especially when I'm setting a scene. If I have multiple objects and I'm trying to get them all to snap to a floor, well, I don't need to just drag each piece down with a gizmo anymore. Align everything I see to the floor, call it a day. It's really, really effective that way. Much easier. Okay. And let's see here. Hey, Ian, I'm trying to accurately replicate a picture of a coin to turn it into a ring. I tried using alphas and I tried noise. ZBrush makes it look very noisy. What method would you use accurately? Accurately replicate a picture of a coin? Gotcha. I got you. Let me know if you've tried Spotlight. But here, let's do this. I'm gonna go ahead and just Google a coin real fast. Here, let's go. Yeah, let's go. Star Trek. Let's do a Star Trek coin. That could be kind of cool. Go ahead and just save this image out. Come here. Boop. Just put this on my desktop for now. No, let's try this. Let's go to pictures. Boom. That there. Okay. So now what I could do, I'm going to go ahead and just get a cylinder here. gonna squeeze this down. Turn this on the side here. Perfect. Now I need some edge loops here. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab my Z modeler brush. Come through, multiple edge loops. Get something that's gonna be decent. There you go, got my coin. So what I would do now is I would actually go up to texture, import. Did I save it as something that couldn't be saved? Of course not. Okay, fine. Here, 1 second. How did I save this? Yeah, save. Okay. Let's go texture, import. Okay. All right, does not want to save for some reason, which is fine. All right, fine. All right, fine. Let's do this. Well, that's fun. Trying to think of a good example to do this. Okay, let's just do... What other images do I have that has a text? It's fun. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to find a good image that would help you out. Okay. What do I have? You know what? Let's do this. We got this floor here. So I'm gonna add this to spotlight. Here. So I got my scene here. So let's just do the scene. It's be a little bit easier. So I have the scene here, okay? And I'm gonna just go ahead and put that wherever I want to put that. I would use the spotlight function. So I would actually from here use like clay buildup or something. That is really nasty. Okay, I'm just come here, up that resolution. You're gonna need some good resolution for this. Do I have spotlight turned on? It may not work if I don't have spotlight turned on. I do have spotlight turned on, good. Okay. So you can see here, I actually can replicate this. Now, of course, spotlight's probably gonna be your best friend. This is one of the ways I would do it. Let's come through here. And I would actually, what I would do is I would apply thick skin, turn thick skin on, and get something that so it caps out. There we go. And then I would use my clay buildup. Now I'm doing this rough. You're gonna want to take your time with this. But this is actually what Spotlight is really good for, is capturing texture and details. Just doing this really quickly. Yeah, okay, so whatever black and white, you guys understand like the black and white aspect, let's turn this to an alpha. Let's do this, because that wasn't a good representation. Let's close that down. Let's go here to texture, let's come here, and then let's go to create an alpha. Make alpha, yeah. There, that would be a little bit better. Let's close this, texture down, and then export that alpha. It's probably not the best image. I wanted to do it with something a little bit more depth, but you know. Let's go pictures here. Let's do PSD there. That should be fine. Let's import that back. Texture. There we go. Let's try the black and white version of this because we can adjust our contrast too. Let's try the contrast. There it is. Adjust the contrast a bit. There we go. Give you an idea here. Oh, thick skin is turned off. Turn thick skin back on. But you can see here, there we go. That's looking a bit better. So as long as you have a good contrasty image, this should work out well. But again, this is probably the worst image to be doing this with, but you can already see how that's coming out. So you want really good resolution though. I'm working at 1.3, but this is how I would do it. And I would actually mask this area out too. What I would do to create that nice lip is I would actually drop this down, maybe back this up, just for now. Come here, mask this out, and I'd probably create a good mask. So let's come here with like make perfect circle mask, especially since you're making coins. Mask this section off here. Invert that. You can even like bring up the resolution a bit more. And then that way you have something that's nice and sharp, sharpen that edge, and then from there capture that detail. Again, this is probably not the best picture for it, but this is how I would do it if I had something very specific that I wanted to be on the actual coin itself. Again, not the best picture though, but hopefully that gives you an idea of how I would approach it. I was a little all over the place, but yeah. I was trying to do the Enterprise, yeah. I tried. It didn't want me to download it, which is fine. So yeah, so hopefully that's it. That's what Spotlight can do for you. Because Spotlight, you know, a lot of artists, what they do is they bring in our texture to quote work on, right? So we'll have our Spotlight, and they use this for reference. So they'll say like, oh, here's my reference, and then they go to brush, samples, and turn off Spotlight. And that's how you can sculpt without doing the detail. But ZBrush, it like wants you to bring in an image and copy those details down. And the better off that image is, so I would do is I would take your image that you really want to make sure you're copying in, bring it into like Photoshop or something, really adjust the image so you have really good values of black and white. Black obviously being something that it wouldn't really show, white giving you the kind of the highlights or the peaks and valleys, and make sure it's really good. Bring that in and then use the Spotlight to get it on there. I actually did that in the film industry just before the pandemic. We had to actually have something very specific that was drawn by an artist to be put on a coin to be 3D printed, and that was the method I used, and I still use it for today. Yeah. Now you can never get good extrusion with Spotlight. So, you know, again, based on the vertices, I would say have really good high resolution to give you nice, clean, crisp edges. Remember too, though, it's like you're gonna want to always clean it up just a little bit. It's only gonna it can only capture as good as the mesh. So this is one of those times you're gonna hear me say go up to like 2 to 5 million polys per subtool for that to capture that kind of detail. That's what you're gonna want to end up doing. That's the time you're gonna hear me say that. Because it needs to capture a lot of detail. Because a lot of these images are really like fine detail, you know? Are these my not so good teeth? Those are my not so good teeth. These are my second not so good teeth. You know, maybe we'll clean up the statue a little bit more next week. Yeah, maybe we'll do that. Because right now, we're actually running out of time. But we're getting somewhere. Yeah, not a problem. Yeah, it might be a good way, good method Steamworks. Yeah, you're absolutely welcome. Using the move infinite to get some of these kind of gum looking movements here real quick. Let's actually carve into this a bit more. And then we're gonna need to rebuild this. Did I lose my Dynamesh? I must have. Yep. Oh, we're getting somewhere. This actually looks okay. I'm not hating it. We'll work this a little bit more next week, or we'll go back to, or the Raptor. It depends. It depends on, I gotta look at the progress of that. We're also getting ready for the summits. I'm super excited. Can't wait. I think I'm gonna choose to go a little bit more stylized with this than like I'm not shooting for realism. I'm just shooting for, I want it to look good. You are so welcome. Yeah. All right. Now let's get some of these this brow bones on here. We need to get these looking a little bit better. We have to decide now if we want to give them an expression like Skeletor or something. Actually, cheekbones are too forward facing. This is why we keep it as low as possible. Really just helps. Yeah, it's great that there's always 5 ways to solve a problem in ZBrush, right? Yeah, absolutely. It becomes super helpful, right? When you're just, especially knowing that like you're not limited to one specific way of doing something. I never liked it when it's like, oh, you have to do it this one way. It's like, no, I don't think that way, man. I'm definitely the guy who just moves stuff around until it looks fine. And then I'm like, yoo-hoo, did it. Okay, let's take the gizmo. Let's actually touch this guy right here. Let's make sure symmetry is turned on and adjust this as we need. And let's grab this guy right here. We gotta fix his teeth. His teeth are a little wonky. Outside the box. You know it, man. All right. So we're about done for the day. You know what? Next week we'll just continue this project because I'm liking it, and I want to take this all the way to 3D printing, and that's the goal of this. We'll 3D print this. We got a nice Form Labs that needs to be used, so let's figure out. I'm printing this bad boy, which would be really, really cool. Maybe yeah, maybe we'll do like a newsletter drop or something if you guys want a nice little pre-Halloween model. That would be fun. If you guys are interested in that, let me know. We could do that. We always drop new stuff with newsletter, so it's always a fun little bit. It's also just fun to print stuff, which means the teeth need to be adjusted a bit, but... And what's also really cool about this project is, like we were talking about last week, kind of mentioned like good ways to practice within ZBrush. I highly recommend practicing by just sculpting a skull. I'm trying to hit that dynamic button. I want that on there. Sculpting a skull is a great way to just kind of get your sculpting practice in, because it's something that A, focuses on anatomy, but B, is recognizable when things don't look good, but also too, it's not super complex in a way that's going to take up too much time. So you can definitely, it's a good way to practice getting these basic fundamentals down. So if you're new to this and you're like, what should I sculpt? Load up that preset skull, kind of like what we talked about in the beginning of the stream, and then just go ahead and give it a good practice and just look at the anatomy and just try to replicate what you see. All right. So we'll refine this a little bit more, but this is about where we got today, which will be fun. Maybe we'll put it on like a little bookshelf or a little book or something like that. We'll see. We'll see what we got going on. Forceful interpretation of my favorite form of art. Yay! Sweet. All right, everybody, that's going to call it for today. Thank you guys so much for stopping by, hanging out with me, and asking some really solid questions. It's always amazing. So definitely huge shout out to everyone. Thank you guys. I love hanging out with you. Let's go ahead and do it. How can I sculpt a game character? So you start like this, Beto. You start like what I'm doing right now. You sculpt your character first. You just take a sphere or you block it out, and then you start refining it. Kind of watch this stream again. If you came in late, go back through and kind of see how I started. Once your character is made complete, then you go through the retopo process. And then after that, you go through texturing. Most game studios will use something very similar or they'll use Substance Painter or ZBrush even for texturing, which I love using ZBrush for texturing a lot. So, and then from there, they go through the rigging process and baking process, the whole stuff. So it is a whole pipeline, but you start here. You start with the actual block out the character. So you guys are welcome. As always, take it easy. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe out there. And one more time, just for a good measure, sculpt off! Love to see you guys there at the summit, but I would love to see you guys even more in the sculpt off. So definitely sign up, check it on out. I'm going to go ahead, check the rules out too, because you never know. You want to make sure that you're just following the rules, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone's sculptures because we're going to be monitoring as you sculpt. So check the stuff out, download the scene that you really, really like, and we'll see you then. It's actually coming up. It's in a week. It's in a week from this coming Sunday. Super exciting. All right, everybody, take it easy. I'm Ian Robinson. I work at Maxon, IT ZBrush, and I'll catch you guys next week. Later!